When did you get down?
Cool. I came down on Sunday or Saturday. Sunday. I came down on Sunday, and I've just been here. I went to a restaurant for the first time in 3 months.
Where'd you go?
I went to Carpaccio.
Oh, in Bal Harbor.
You know, we're in Bal Harbor.
Bal Harbor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The restaurant was in Bal Harbor, so they were all open, but they were at 50%. They had to like do it every other table.
Sure.
And it was packed at every other table. Every
Sure.
table was packed. You know,
Sure.
and so I thought the whole idea that like, oh yeah, people aren't going to go out anymore and stuff. I was like, well, the pandemic is still like going on. People are still in lockdown in most of the country. And the first night the restaurants opened, they're at full capacity to 50%. But still, like I thought that was a great sign.
And Miami's not New York.
No.
New York is New York. New Jersey is a little New York. But Miami and LA are not New York. So it's going to come back there faster.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think in New York it will come back fast too. We'll see, but I think it will. I think it will because people have such an urge to just get out. You know,
every day, every week, it's more people than it was the week before.
Yeah,
and the pent up demand, I don't even understand what it looks like. But I will tell you, I got a phone call this morning from somebody looking in an apartment, and I was like, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
And wanted to know, what do you think? Is it too much? How long is it going to take to renovate? I was like, well, that's a conversation I haven't had in about a month. So, price, money's going to dictate everything. Money's free. Price, if the price is right, people are going to buy it.
Yeah, there's, are we recording? Yeah, okay.
We are recording.
So I think there's going to be some sort of a domino effect that happens. I mean, everybody's talking about they're going to need less office space. And if you need less office space, and some of the people can work from home, but working from home doesn't mean you're going to be in Brooklyn. Working from home means you're going to be in Miami or in Nashville or wherever else you want to be.
Sure.
Like schools are cheaper and like better, and the lifestyle is cheaper, and you're working from home. So there's going to be that. I feel like this dynamic of the city is going to change because all of a sudden you don't have that middle manager with the 2 kids who doesn't want to spend half of his salary sending his kids to a private school, right?
100%.
So,
100%.
That could be anywhere. So that dynamic is going to change. And I think there's going to be this, it's going to go to the edges where it's going to be like really young people who don't care. They're going to be like, I want to be around other people. I want to go out. I want to live the life. And older people who are like, hey, it's easier for me to live in the city because all this, I can just walk around the corner and, I could walk to the park and there's help everywhere. But I think that like middle ground people are just going to, I feel like the middle managers, a lot of them are going to shift away from the city.
I totally agree. And you got to get a vaccine for those older people to enjoy the lifestyle of New York because without it, they're staying wherever they are. And they're not coming back until...
What's going to happen is that once you don't have those middle managers who are willing to buy the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms, what do? You have to like sort of lower the prices, right? Like office prices. We bought our office price, so I'm not terribly, I thought I was the smartest guy in the room 5 months ago, and today I feel like I have like this $10 million burden on my back. But office rents are going to come down, so that in return, residential rents are going to come down, retail rents are going to come down. I don't see the population of New York City going up. I see it coming down. And the greatest sign for a healthy city is for the population to continue to rise and rise and rise.
Right.
And which is not always a good thing for the people living there, but it's a good thing for the taxes. It's a good thing for the city. It's a good thing for the businesses. But I feel like that's where it's headed, unfortunately. But I think it's also a good reset because it did become too expensive. Right, the jobs and the pays that were out there were not syncing with the sort of lifestyle that existed there, right? Like, all this. I mean, you go to a lot of restaurants. Do you go to a restaurant that an entree is like $15, $16? No, there's no restaurants like that. You have to go to like a Fresh and Company to get a $16 or $15.
Right.
But so
no offense to them.
Everything. Prices have gone up on everything. It's not sustainable because look, I got 80 people in the company, and what do we have? I mean, I see the salaries of all these guys. They used to be in Brooklyn, right? They used to move to Brooklyn. Now they can't even afford Brooklyn. They can't afford Queens. They are like in New Jersey and in upstate and in White Plains and from places like that, and they're commuting to the city because they simply cannot afford to live in the city. And that goes for all the rest of all the other industries, like the restaurant business. I remember this guy, Kevin Morphy, who owns Landmark and a bunch of other restaurants. And he said, there's not a single person, manager down, that can afford to live in the city and work at a restaurant. It's just not, it's just not manageable.
Would you let a good chunk of your team work remotely?
Yeah, if I could pay them less. But if I could have the comfortable of having them in my office, which I already paid for,
Right.
then yeah, I want them in the office.
Right.
But it depends. I mean, like all of a sudden now you're looking for people, and you know, I don't have to think about that person moving from Dallas to New York and me paying for their move. Like the talent pool becomes wider. New York is always one of the great things about New York, and why all the companies came here, why all the people came here, was because of jobs, right? Number one reason why people move to cities is because of jobs. And then the corporations came here because all the talent was here. The talent came here because all the corporations were here.
Right.
And now that's all going to get redistributed, right? So now if I'm looking for a copy editor, I don't have to get a guy in New York who's, you know, needs to pay for a one bedroom $4,000. I can get him in Dallas who's paying $1,800 for a one bedroom.
That's right.
And you know, it's a different thing. I don't need that guy in the office for sure. I definitely, in fact, I've been more connected with my staff since we've been out of the office, since in the office. Some of the people I never see for like a week unless we have our weekly meeting. But now I'm like on regular meetings every day.
Are you enjoying the Zoom? I know you're enjoying talking to me because we have romance going on, but do you enjoy the technology and using it?
Yeah, the technology works. Google Hangouts works. It's a lot more seamless. I use that too. But yeah, Zoom, Google Hangouts, I think they're all pretty effective. And the technology for them is the same way the health community is working on a vaccine for the COVID. The tech community is working for more features and, you know, better resolution.
Absolutely.
And better sound on this stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So full disclosure, you and I are really good friends, and we've been really good friends for a long time. And tell everybody how old is the real deal now? It's
17 years old now. And you were a client. I remember one of my guys, rest his soul, he passed away, but Abby, he brought you in as a client.
Oh, sure.
And he,
Abby passed away?
He passed away. Yeah, he passed away. Yeah, he was a great guy. And
good guy.
Yeah, he brought you as a client. I was like, Renovated Home. He was like, yeah, man. He was like, this guy is great, but he's really fucking difficult, man. He's like calling me at 1 o'clock at night saying, this is bullshit, that's bullshit. I was like, well, let me talk to him and stuff. And I get on the phone with you, and then we immediately hit it off. You're like, look, owner to owner, I can do this. I don't want to talk to anybody else. I was like, I get it. We can make it.
It's also the meds started to kick in at that point, so it worked out. But it's 17 years old. You started in, right, you started in Brooklyn. You started this in your apartment.
Yeah, we started in my apartment in Brooklyn, yeah.
And
it was my 2-bedroom apartment that, you know, ironic enough, everybody who I hired at that point was living in Manhattan. So they were doing a reverse commute to, you know, Prospect Heights, Crown Heights. And from Manhattan, they lived in the Lower East Side, they lived on the Upper West Side, and they were doing a reverse commute. And, you know, back then, Prospect Heights and Crown Heights was like, they weren't like the neighborhoods they are today. It was like,
right.
That's why I was there. I was like, you know, buying, you know, real estate there because I thought there was great value because of all the transportation that was there. But so yeah, we started out in my place in Brooklyn, and then then we got sued by Bruce Wasserstein, who was like the king of Wall Street, and he also owned a publication called The Deal. So he said, "Oh, you have the real deal? That's saying that the deal is not real, and the deal you focus on mergers and acquisitions." And of course, he hires Aiken and Gump and spends like a fortune, and I'm like working out of my house.
Right.
But we won. We won the suit, and like the New York Post covered it. It was in the cover of the business section for the Post and stuff, and it was good.
Wow.
And here we are.
That's it. Now you come to the city and you start expanding into other markets. How many markets are you in at this point?
We're in Miami. We have a very great following in Miami, in Los Angeles, and greater Los Angeles area, and in Chicago. But, you know, the media has changed. The way you look at media, it's changed. This COVID and working from home has changed things. So for us, we're like looking at things as not looking at this media as like necessarily being on the ground and having you know, footprint on that city to be able to cover it.
Sure.
It's to actually, instead of going into different cities, it's going to adding additional verticals like prop tech or like legal or, you know, policy and things like that, those verticals tend to garner more audience for us than going into like Dallas and saying, hey, like let's capture the Dallas audience. We'll get those people coming to us if we cover prop tech, right? And we'll get a greater audience to come to us. I mean, right now we're getting 4.4 million unique visitors every month that come to the site. It's a tremendous amount of people. Wow. And obviously that's not just in our markets. People from all over come because we have such an amazing SEO, and that's helped us a lot. But then seeing the stories that people are interested in, and seeing like where they're coming from, that tailors our editorial to a degree, right? Like if we do policy stories and we're, oh my God, look at all the people who are interested in some stupid policy that we thought was very boring, but we thought it was important. Our audience is like, we're totally interested in this. Please do more, So it teaches us a lot about how we need to cover it and what sort of coverage we need to provide for them.
I mean, 17 years ago, it was, real estate's always been real estate, but the coverage of real estate didn't exist to any extent. No. It was a fringe business of people doing it on the side kind of thing.
For the big media companies, it was a fringe business. The Wall Street Journal had one real estate reporter. Today they have 13. They're all former the Real Deal guys. But and the New York Times, even though the New York Times, most of their money came from their real estate section, believe it or not, most of the money came from the weekly section that they did. Wow. They didn't have a dedicated real estate reporter, right? They had like some guy who would write about, Argyles on Upper Fifth Avenue buildings. It was like really not like stuff that didn't impact you or me in any way. So even though they generated so much revenues, they didn't really they didn't have a real focus on what people wanted to understand about real estate.
How did you?
Corcoran report would come out, and they would put that as news. They would be like, according to the Corcoran report, this is what's happening in the city. It was like, look, there's like everybody has their own report now,
Right. So. But content is the critical component to the business, and you easily could have started this business and this magazine, and it could have been page after page of listing and listing and listing and listing. Yeah. And you figured out that the content was as important as anything, if not the most important thing. When I open it up in the morning, I read the articles. How did you, or what was the aha moment that you said content, and hold on a second, I'm not blowing smoke, I love you, but I'm not. Content is more important than the listings of here's what, Element's selling today and here's what Corcoran is selling. Right. There had to be a moment where you were like, content is king, when the content was at best fringe. How did that happen?
It happened immediately. I mean, initially you start out because you want to have a business. You're like, I got to put out a product that I can sell to somebody, right? So initially that was the idea. But immediately after we put out the first issue, right, it became clear that people were starved for news on real estate. And it could have been anything. Like I could have just had people moving from one company to another. Sure. And people were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Nobody else is covering this. And also in the beginning, we could have made the choice of doing like fluffy things where people could just use for marketing. There's a lot of that. We were like, let's avoid that. We're not making that much money to begin with right now. So let's just go like really hard at it and really cover it from a journalistic, perspective, and like dig in and like answer the right questions, have enough sources to support a story, and like do something that we could be proud of. And, issue 3, issue 4, and it really grew on us, and we became like we became responsible and accountable to the product that we had created. So even though sometimes people would come to us and be like, hey, write this story and we'll do an ad campaign with you. And we were like, meanwhile, I'm in my apartment in Brooklyn. We were like, wow, that would be amazing and that would be great. But we were like, nah, let's just do it. Because once you start going down that route,
it's a rabbit hole.
It's
a rabbit hole. And I mean, and I can speak completely dead honest, your division of church and state, you don't break it for anybody.
No,
I mean, people could walk in with a check this big.
Wouldn't let me do it. Yeah,
here's a check, and you're like, I can't. My hands are tied.
Reporters, they don't work for me because I paid them so much money. Like these guys all went to Columbia and Yale and wherever else they went to. They're smart kids. They're not working for me for the money. They work there because we let them do good work and they put their name, good stuff. And if there's any notion that we're like, you know, wavering on that, people would just walk out, and I wouldn't blame them, you know, because again, it's not like, oh, Amir's paying my mortgage and for my boat and my, no, Amir's not doing any of that, you know.
No. I mean, and that is grown as every year the content gets better, the industry is more involved, but because you kept it, you know, divided, that's what makes it the publication it is, and
I think so too. And look, people are smart, you know, people see, like, they see it. I mean, especially our readers, they're so in tune to it. Like, they see the signs, you know, like, you know, pay for play stuff. People are not stupid, especially like, you know, sophisticated people in the business. Like, they sense the pay for play and they just steer away, or like, you know, it's all those sort of that sort of content becomes a marketing vehicle for people, and people use it. They love it. They'll take it and they'll blast it to their client list and stuff like that. Maybe 50% of their clients don't know that it's a puff piece, and the other 50% is like, wow, my broker is amazing. Look at them. This company's writing about them.
You know what word I've been advertising my company for 30 years in different forms. The number one word that makes me do this with my head is advertorial. I'm like,
you like it or you don't like it?
I hate it. What's the word advertorial? You guys, either you're doing an editorial or you're advertising. Pick one. You're not combining it. And like I said, I mean, I think that speaks volumes for the credibility of what's coming off the pages.
Well, also, it's so tricky. Like, I remember when native advertising first came out, we were like, absolutely not. We're not going to do it, because you're literally tricking your audience. And I got tricked with it several times on, I don't want to mention the outlet, but like, I saw a great headline because some marketing genius was like, use this headline. You know, people like Amir will read it, and it worked. I get to the bottom of it. It says, this piece was sponsored by Intel. I was like, oh, of course it was. And another time I got really tricked was on the New York Times. They had a special section about women in prison, and they had all these stats. I read the whole thing. It was like 1,600 words or 3,000 words or something like that. I was fascinated. It was a promo for Orange is the New Black. And I only get to that at the very end of the article, that it's about, you know, Orange is the New Black was the promo. I was like, oh my God. I mean, the content was good, but you know, when you see something as an advertorial, like you say, you just steer away from it.
It's the worst, but the content's great. And the cool part is the content it keeps getting better. And in the last couple of months, that's a big statement. I mean, you guys haven't even dropped the ball this much in 2.5 months.
We get excited about opportunities like this. These are like once in a lifetime opportunities. Like all of a sudden, an article that would get 20,000 views is getting 60,000 views. You know, that's a significant number. So like for reporters, they love it. They want to go out there. I mean, we have meetings on, with some of my team, we have meetings on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's very normal. You know, like, hey, this is happening on a Saturday. We need to do something about this. And almost always when we have those discussions on the weekend, those stories just go through the roof. You know, they do really well because the readers are there and they're interested in it.
Something I've never asked you before, but it's a perfectly great opportunity to do it. What'd you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to, a kid, when I was in high school, my teachers always said I was a good writer. So I thought I wanted to become a writer. So I was like, what do I do in college to become a writer? Unfortunately, you either take an English major or you go to journalism school. So I went to journalism school, but I was never a good journalist. So I wanted to be a publisher. I always liked the idea of being a publisher. So ever since I was in like, you know, my freshman year in college, I was like, you know, I should try to be a publisher somehow. I don't know how it works, but I learned how to use, PageMaker, and I was like, holy shit, with just a computer, I could lay out a whole, newspaper or magazine. And, you know, right out of college, the first job I had was being a publisher, my own publisher in Mexico. So I was like, I was 22 years old. I was in Mexico, and we were like, publishing a newspaper. Like, it was like flimsy 24-page sort of a paper, but still, I really enjoyed it.
And when did you come to the United States?
I came in by the time we got here, it was 1981.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's the best part of this whole isolation thing for you?
I hate to admit it because people are having such a hard time with it, but I'm sort of a homebody, and I love being at home and like just cooking and stuff. And I promised myself to learn a few things. So I learned how to read sheet music. And I can't believe just in the last 3 months or 2.5 months, I learned how to read sheet music. Yeah.
Really?
Great program, online program called Simply Piano. And it just, it catches the notes and stuff. And I always wanted to learn how to do that. I always envy people who knew how to read music. I was like, what a universal language. You could put sheet music in front of a Chinese person,
right,
and a French guy, and they read the same thing. And I was like, that is language that like everybody should learn after Spanish. But so I always wanted to learn it, and I learned it fairly fast, a lot easier than Spanish. Yeah.
So that leads to any other hobbies, or that's enough? I mean, that's a whole language.
Yeah, I've just been really enjoying playing the piano more than ever. So it's I do that a lot in free time. But like I said, I've been also working around the clock too, but in a really good way.
So what's keeping you motivated?
Staying alive is keeping me motivated. Staying alive, but also just growth. Like I'll be honest, like my business was here 3 months ago, and now it's here, right? And I feel like I got to do a lot of clawing to get back to where it was just 3-4 months ago. So in terms of traffic and content, we're doing great, but in terms of revenues and stuff, it shrunk down a bit. That took me a long time to get there. Like year after year, you have a business, you know what it's like. It's never boom, like you don't go by leaps and bounds. Sometimes, which is great, but for me, in the last couple of months, the business shrunk down a good amount, and now I feel like for the next year or so, I really got to claw my way out of it a little bit. So that's keeping me motivated in a great way.
And the online element has to be a huge part of the business.
But it's the whole business now. So I mean, not the whole business, but look, people still love the print part of it, and as long as they pay for it, we'll keep producing it, which is great. But like for me, ideally, if all of my customers and clients would be like, I only want to be online, then by all means, that would be a lot easier for me. My costs would down dramatically. But as long as people are interested in the print, they want it, the engagement on print, believe it or not, like you would have to, a lot of people feel like they have a sense of media and they really don't. I mean, we're really seeing it from the back end, and we're working with agencies and we're working with all sorts of people. And, the fact is that, people feel like they're paying $10, $20 CPMs for, online advertising, but that's the viewability is not there, right? So you're really paying like $150, $160 CPM for that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, because and people think that for the 1,000 impressions, they're really paying $20, and that's just not the case, seeing the back end of it. And so you see that stuff, and you see how expensive digital can be if you want to make it productive. Look, we advertise, we use social media to advertise, right? I see the conversion rates on those. They're very expensive conversion rates.
Absolutely.
So, luckily they have unlimited supply of impressions. I mean, they're coming from all over the world, but like they have unlimited supply of people where Facebook is like, well, as long as I can put this in front of 1 billion people until I get the conversions that you need, it's going to cost you a pretty penny, for you to get that.
Right.
So, but I mean, I feel like media has changed a lot. We're changing along with it. And in terms of what's valuable to people, you see that a lot because people, I go to these, we used to do these events. Now we haven't, but people would be like, oh yeah, you get out there, Bobby Joe, and you start advertising yourself on your social media. But Bobby Joe is not Ryan Serhant. Bobby Joe has 80 people following him, and I don't care how exciting his network of people are. Right. You're not going to generate business from with your 1,000 followers, half of them are your cousins and uncles, So, but there is a truth to the fact that you got to build an audience. You got to keep going and going. But not everybody's cut out for it. You're a charismatic guy. I go through your feed. I like listening to your shit. You walk through a job site and you're like, hey, that looks bad. That's a soffit. That soffit needs cleaning. You guys suck. Whatever. It's exciting. Like but not everybody's cut out, from the same fabric. So it's not for everybody. But the people who do use it properly, I think you do a great job with it. Like, and you tell me how's this going?
It's going great. First of all, I could talk to you for 4 hours about tequila, and it would be great. But the fact that I'm talking about conversion rates is just bonus. Do you ever envision a time where you're not publishing a paper? You do.
Yeah, I was Yeah, I was hoping for that to be last year, but
Really?
like I said, there's people who get like real results from from the paper copy, and they see the value of it, and they keep advertising them. And as long as my clients want a paper product, I'll produce it for them.
Gotcha.
And if they feel like it's going to the right people, they get good results from it. So as long as that's working for them, I'll keep putting it out. And the engagement on it is very good. I mean, if you get people to actually pick it up and flip through it,
Sure.
a lot of people say the ads are also part of the content because they get so much information from the ads.
Sure.
They're like, oh my God, I didn't know that there's still sponsored units in this, in the Excel tower, or yeah, I didn't know this deal happened. And that's, it's very, the sort of advertising is very, it's professional advertising. It's geared to like real estate people. So there's good information in there too. But yeah, I mean, for me, ideally, if I could cut the print, it would be, it would be a lot easier. But like, as we have so many clients who insist on being in the print edition. Like,
yeah, that's got to be a short-lived. That's got to change at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we should change last year. Like, yeah, there's some people who just refuse. They're like, we get some people to come to the site, but what they last on the site for like 8 seconds, and then they like leave, and we don't get to put the. I don't know.
Do you read a book? Do you read a book in a book, or do you read a book on a Kindle or on your phone?
I read a book in a book. I have to.
And that's why you're, and that's why
I don't know how much I've gotten into it, how much is left, but I also write down a lot of notes and stuff on books. So for me, it's different.
And that's.
But I'm also, so I'm not probably the right age group to ask that of.
Right. I'm thinking, people in their teens as opposed to.
Well, I have 2 Kindles that I rarely use, but.
Really?
Yeah.
All about the book.
Yeah.
What's on your Google, what comes up in the morning? What the real deal comes up for me, but what are you listening to? Podcasts, things like that? Does any of that stuff turn you on, or is this just no time?
Yeah, I actually listen to podcasts going to bed. It helps me fall asleep. But in the morning, I try to listen to the Daily. I think they do a good job with that.
Yeah.
And then there's specific ones on media that I listen to. It's funny, people think I'm so knowledgeable in real estate, and the fact is, I probably consume more media content than I do, real estate content.
Sure.
That's probably not true, but when I specifically go out there to look for content, it's usually on media and what are successful webinars, and what's a good way to produce this, or what are the results of this kind of advertising. So that's the stuff that really piques my interest, because that's ultimately my business.
That's your business. That's it. And when did you guys start doing events that we go to and enjoy? Was that 10 years?
No, it was longer. We started that in 2005.
Wow.
And there was a fellow by the name of Darren Hornig, and he started his own development company recently. But he was like, "You got to do events." I was like, "How are we going to get people to come to an event and just like listen to us talk?" He was like, "People do this. It's a business, and you're going to be." And the first event that we did, we had 420 people show up, and we had one panel, and people stayed for 4 hours.
Wow. Right?
One panel, standing room only. People stayed for 4 hours. And it was the first event that we did. And, after that, everybody else started doing events. A Green Pearl came out 2 years after that, and they started just producing events for people. Massey Knackle started doing their own events, and events became a thing. And, you have BizNow and, other places who do events. So it's, you're always trying to find something novel about what you put out so that it sort of sticks out. Today I was talking to my team about, online events. Have you seen this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a simulation, and I was like, this is sort of going a step backwards. They were like, why? This is the future. I was like, no. I was like SimCity came out like 20 years ago,
right?
And I feel like I'm in SimCity. There's these chat rooms that hasn't advanced since SimCity came out. Yeah, now it's for a business that's doing a conference, but I don't feel like it's forward. But I also don't want to be the person who's like left out if events don't come back.
Sure.
So we're going to try it and see what people's feedback and responses are.
The events in New York are great, but I have to think that if the first event you started out with, you had 420 people, and then you look out on the crowd when you do an event in Wynwood in Miami, you have to your head has to shake a little going, wow, how did we get here?
Yeah, and I always wonder, I can't believe, I'm so grateful for everybody who shows up. I'm so thankful to them. I walk through this show, I'm like, thank you for coming to 5,000 people. Right. But I'm always shocked when we do those large events and the number of people that show up. It's amazing.
They're great. So going back to the reading, anything that you've read great in the last month or two?
Oh yes. Well, always to business people, always the book that really had a huge impact on me was How Google Works. And one of my coworkers gave this to me. And I just learned so much about management on this that, it was every chapter of it, I learned something from it.
Wow.
It was amazing. And it was written by Eric Schmidt, who was like CEO of, and Greg Rosenberg or something like that, or Joe Rosenthal. But it was a great book, and I learned a lot from it. Recently, I started reading Jeff Bezos' Office because he's going to be our overlord soon. So I like to learn something about him. And, yeah.
Right.
So, and I thought it's something I read interesting that we started applying it in our own business was, so people come to him with ideas all the time, and his own people. So you get all this stuff ultimately has to get vetted to the top. And so what he asked for them is, bring me a press release. I want to see the press release on this product. That way, before we spend any money on it or stuff, we have a vision of exactly how that's going to go out to the public. And I was like, that's a great idea. Yeah, put it in a press release. Show me how it's going to look on a press release, and then we'll take it from there.
Wait, what are you bringing to the party? That's smart man. That there's a reason why he's cooking.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple of fun things, and then we're going to talk some business.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to bang right through it. What is the restaurant you miss the most?
Raoul's, my favorite. Oh my God, I miss that place. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I used to be a waiter for their sister restaurant called Spartina in Tribeca, and I used to make my checks at Raoul's, and I used to go there. I'm like, what a nice, elegant crowd this year. This was like in 2000. And then after I left and I started making a little money, I started going to Raoul's. I became one of the elegant people who's part of that crowd now.
You're a Renaissance man.
Yeah.
I know that. So, are you doing sweatpants, or are you getting dressed every day?
No way, no sweatpants. But
no sweatpants.
No sweatpants, no pants. In fact,
no pants. I'm not wearing pants because we know each other. You're in Miami, for Christ's sake. I'm lucky you're wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
Favorite pizza topping?
Oh, cheese. More cheese.
Okay. Have you ever made a TikTok?
No, but I always tell people TikTok is the heroine of social media.
Oh my God.
Because in the beginning when it came out, I can't even imagine what it's like now, but in the beginning when it first came out, like on Instagram, like 20 minutes could go by and you're like, what happened? On TikTok, an hour could go by and you're like, wow, that was 5 minutes of amazing entertainment. There's nothing on cable TV that would be.
There's nothing. And these kids, hours and hours and hours of doing it. Roller coasters, yes or no?
Ooh, I don't know. But I tell you what, my friend brought me a virtual reality, the Oculus Quest. I don't know if you've seen it. So he brought it for me in January and I was like, I tried it last year. It's bullshit. And then he was like, no. He was like, they made a lot of progress. And then I put it on. Holy shit, they made progress.
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, so you go, there's a game called Walk the Plank, and you go in the elevator. As you go up the elevator, you know the feeling you get in the elevator? You feel that. And when you jump out the window, you really feel this frightenness of jumping out the window. I can't imagine in a few years or 3-4 years where I could literally picture people in a closet sitting with a headset on and just living their lives like that, like where they're feeling cold and heat and pain and not love, but yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Yeah, you throw up in your shoes watching that thing. Those things are crazy real.
It's incredible, and this is 2020. I mean, from 2019 to 2020, the progress they made is incredible. And now it's so seamless. There's no wires. There's no downloading of apps or anything. There's no heads. You just put the headset on and you're out. You're real Black Mirror stuff.
Are you watching anything?
No, not really. Surprisingly, I watch very little. I used to love coming home like after everything was done and watch something, and now I don't watch. I haven't watched anything really. I for some reason I'm not excited to watch anything.
It's hard, but there's a show. I know everybody's watched Ozark and they've watched this and that, but there's a show called Upload. I have no.
Oh, yeah, on Amazon. I saw the first episode of that.
It was fun. Yeah. It wasn't bad. I'm into
the guy didn't pay for his monthly, so he was like pixelated.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You talk about technology and virtual reality. It's a fun show, and I have no patience. All right, a couple more, and then we're gonna get to We're going to get to business. French fries or onion rings?
French fries.
Pickles, yes?
Or say onion rings? I want to know. Has anybody said onion rings?
Absolutely. I've got a bucket list of things from these that I have to go visit people, because what I committed to, whatever somebody had was their thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go to Raoul's. I'm going to take you to Raoul's. That's the thing, right? On my treat. But Elizabeth Keevelin is an onion ring freak. She's like, onion rings, onion rings, onion rings. And she knows where it is. And I'm like, let me tell you something. I'm going to go to BurgerFi on 2nd Avenue. I'm going to pick up an order. I'm going to have a cab waiting. I'm going to bring it to her. She's like, you bring me a better onion ring. I said, you're on. So yeah, I would also.
Is there a better onion ring than Houston's? Doesn't Houston's have the?
I'm telling. Yeah, they do. I'm telling you something. For like $6, BurgerFi crushes it.
Well,
and I don't even understand. Dogs or cats? I know the answer to this.
I love dogs, but somehow I ended up with a cat.
You ended up with a cat. I understand that.
I'm a dog guy. It's funny.
The beach or the mountains?
Ooh, man. Ideally, I have a house in the North Fork that's on a cliff, right? And you're looking down at the mountains. I mean, at the water, which is amazing. That's ideal to me. Like, if you could be on the bluff somewhere, that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. But if it was purely beach or just mountain, I would take the mountain.
And pickles, yes, or you don't understand them?
Oh, yeah, yes, all kinds.
You're a big pickle guy. Okay. All right. Well, where's your happy place, buddy?
Oh, man. Well, I love my apartment. I really love it.
I love your apartment too.
I love it even more now.
Right.
For those who don't know, a few months ago, Lee came to my house.
God.
The thing he said was like, I invited him over for a drink. And the first thing he says is like, okay, you need to change those fans to make the room bigger. You need to change that backsplash over there. And within like 4 weeks, all those things were changed. She was like, I got the guy for you. I know the guy. He's going to come here on Tuesday.
We still got to do the lights.
Like, how did this happen? And all of a sudden, my apartment is like 10 times better. So
we got to do the lights.
Yeah, we have to. But COVID happened.
I understand that. We got to do the lights. I still get texts every once in a while going, I'm in.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you want to do when the green light goes on without a mask?
Oh man, just having a dinner party. It would be great. I love having parties at my house, and it would be nice to have a dinner party.
Good parties.
Yeah.
And parenthetically, how's your mom?
She's great. Thank you.
That's all I care. That's it. Last question before we get to the business. What is a fact that most people wouldn't know about you?
Oh my God, I don't know if I want to share that. Jesus, Lee.
Keep it a good fact.
A good fact that people don't know about me? I mean, wow. If there was a good fact, people know about it for sure.
Okay, that's a great answer. All right, let's get to business. So it's a media company, but let's be honest, everybody in real estate knows who you are. And a lot of people who are
finance. We actually get more finance readers that come to the site and who subscribe than real estate people, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, because they're the biggest investors, and there's not a single finance company who's not invested in real estate in some capacity. Either they're lending to it, or they're investing in it, or they're managing it. So they're and the finance universe is just a larger universe. So they're very diligent about reading us and what we cover.
Makes sense. You're driving a team of, you said 80 people?
Yeah. Yeah,
what's it like to
70 since the pandemic happened, but we have to add the other 10 people because of the PPP money. So,
sure.
The positions changed, right? So all of a sudden, the position that was valuable to you 4 years ago, you don't need that. Now you need somebody for a different sort of a thing that you didn't think you needed 4 years
ago.
Sure. If 10 years ago you told me I would need 3 social media managers, I would be like, no way, you're crazy. I'll have my assistant do it, And now it's such a driver for our traffic and such a distributor for our content that it's very important for us.
Absolutely. But what's it like to drive 70, 80 people in the middle of a pandemic?
You do them group by group, and you communicate all the time. You're constantly, and sometimes the communication is really hard because you got to give people a bad message or something, but we just put it out there, and we deal with it. And what the feedback I've always gotten, which is very encouraging, is that people say, hey, I used to be at this company and they never communicated with us this way. I really appreciate you guys just keeping us, abreast of everything that's going on.
That's a big deal. I mean, not keeping people in the dark this kind of time is not the thing to be doing.
Right.
No way around it. And it sounds to me like you were changing your business model even before this happened. So now we're all knee deep in it and we're waiting for things to, turn back on. Are you thinking a change in business model going forward? You talked about, rather than going into Dallas, vertically integrating in Chicago or in LA. Is that part of how you look at this?
I mean, just, at the end of the day, this, just like the same way the success of the city is to increase its population, the success of a news site to increase its readers, right?
Sure.
So that's very important for us. So how do I increase those readers? What do I offer them? Obviously, unique content, which we do, right? We're the largest editorial team in the world for real estate. Nobody else has as many reporters and editors as we do for real estate. Awesome. So, and we produce more real estate content than anybody else in terms of mass media, anybody else out there. So for us, it's like, how do we increase the number of readers and how do we keep them engaged longer? How do we keep them on the site longer? So obviously trying to offer them different features that are useful to them, different sort of content that's useful for them, different data. So we're constantly looking at that stuff and trying to, come up with new schemes.
Are you finding, and obviously I always say you have to subtract the human element and the suffering and all of that, which is really horrible from a business standpoint, from a pure business standpoint. It gives people a lot of time to think. Sometimes it's good things, sometimes it's bad things. Are you seeing and thinking about opportunities because you now have a little bit of time to think, where maybe yes. Before it was
Right. Definitely, you're 100% right about that. Like there were some projects that we had going on that we really can afford, and we have to build. Before it was like, hey, it would be a great supplement to what we do, but now it's like, oh man, this project needs to be a priority right now because of what's happened. It's pushed it along a lot faster. A lot of people said that this whole pandemic that happened, and a lot of people, I was talking to this guy who runs one of the largest lending companies in the country. He said for them it's the great upgrade. So he was like, they're using this as a vehicle to cut people and bring people back that are different or better or whatever it is, and they're really cleaning house, and a lot of businesses are doing that right now. For us, that wasn't a thing because we're a small enough company that the people we hire we absolutely need, and we hired them because we liked them. But I see that happening with so many businesses where they're like, okay, well, because of COVID, I'm going to let go of 20 people and I have to hire 20 people back, but it's going to be a different 20 people, so you're seeing a lot of that.
How are things in LA, by the way?
They're great.
How long have you been,
I think LA has been 4 years now, or maybe 4 years or 5 years. I don't remember, but yeah, I love going to LA. I always fantasize about living there, and it's just such a different lifestyle. But it's
not so bad.
I couldn't do it. 5 months ago, I could never think to move to LA for a year.
And
now it's a possibility.
Now everything's a possibility now.
The world is your oyster.
I heard that. I heard that once. What do you think a green light world looks like in the media business going forward? Because it was a tough business before, and like every other business, it's going to feel pressure.
Yeah, I mean, for media, since I even got into this, it was changing every year. In 2003, Arthur Sulzberger, the publisher of the New York Times, said that in 5 years, there's not going to be a print edition, right? We are now, it's 17 years later or 15 years later, and of course they have the print edition still going. But the business has changed, right? Their business used to be 23% subscriptions and 78% advertising. Now it's completely flipped. Now it's subscriptions 78% and 23% advertising. And 2 years ago we put up a paywall. We were like, look, we have some people that come to the site literally 40 times a day. You have, out of all the people, you have roughly 150, 180,000 people a day that come to the site. Sure. You have like a good 20, 30,000 people that come to the site and read every article. I don't know who these people are, but they read every article. And we're like, let's put the paywall together. And I never thought it would work and I thought that it would affect our traffic. but all my people were like, this is the future of media. We have to go behind the paywall. Like it's, it's the only thing it's the smartest thing we can do. And I'm so happy we did that, because Lee, would you believe it that if we didn't have the paywall, we implemented the paywall 2 years ago. If we didn't have the paywall during the COVID, I don't know where we would be. Isn't that amazing? Just because of that, I feel so lucky that we implemented it 2 years ago. And the woman who started it for us, very sharp lady, Heather Grossman, I sent her an email a few weeks ago. I was like, I just want to, and she had left me, a year ago. I was like, I just want to thank you, because you kept pushing me to do this, and I'm so grateful to you right now.
That's great. That's great. And you know what? It all goes back to great content.
Yeah.
The content's fantastic. And one would argue the Times, forgetting your political persuasion, and the Times has done a crazy good job of putting out content.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing amazing, those guys, but they're very unique. They're in the, top of the top.
But the world was writing off newspapers 6, 7, 10 years ago.
So it's like now media used to be what you created that was your product. That's what you put out. Now media, the content that we produce is the honey trap, right? So we have this platform, and the media, the news is the honey trap that drives people to the platform. Sure. And now the idea is like, what do you offer on that platform beyond the honey trap? Like, they're there for the honey. Now what do you do to make money from this platform and the people we're coming on, right? And so those are the things we're working on, to layer the paywall with more data and stuff, research that we could offer to people.
I got 2 more questions for you, and then I'm thinking that because today's the 27th, are you going to Prime 112 tonight? He's reopening.
No, I'm not going there. Is it tonight? It's open
tonight. He's reopening. I'm following him on.
I think you're going to Wolfgang's.
If I could only be there, I would be there. I swear to God. What do you want the team to know? And what's the takeaway from all of this?
The team, it's one thing I feel like the world we lived in for the last 20 years, we had some horrible things that happened, some horrible incidences that happened. But, it's I work with a lot of young people, and I could never understand how they looked at jobs. Like the whole time, they would always be like, how many vacations do I get? Do we get summer Fridays? Can I get an extra week here? And it was always like that. And I feel like since this happened, right, this is the first thing that millennials are actually saying, like, holy shit.
That's right.
Like, what's going on? I may never have a job again. I came from the generation, from the same generation you did. They're like, we would never leave a job if we didn't have another job. I can't tell you the number of times where people left my company, right? And they're like, I'm going to travel for a year. Like, what the fuck? How do you do that? I mean, these are not all people with wealthy parents and stuff. And I feel like that attitude has changed. And that's the thing that the takeaway from this is that, like, all of a sudden people are like, man, I'm so happy to have a job, and I'm gonna give it, less attitude. I'm gonna put my best foot forward and all that. And and these times are unique times. So people can't expect normal things. They can't expect like, oh, I expect to work. I sound horrible for saying this, but these are very unique times, especially for a news organization and for a media organization. Things are happening at all hours and on the weekends, on the holidays, and all this stuff. And you just have to be alert, because we have so many people coming to us for content and information and news, and we have this accountability to people. They're like, hey, let me go check the Real Deal app, because if it happened, I'm sure they would have it. And so it's our responsibility to put that on there, whether it's Sunday night or Saturday morning or Christmas or whatever it is.
Right.
And I feel like that's I feel like everybody on my team has definitely been on the ball with that, far better than I have probably, but I was very impressed with how everybody just stepped up,
It's a good team. It's a good group of people. And you set the tone, man. You're one of the best people I know.
Thank you.
Took the time to do this. You don't do a lot of these. If you do a handful, and you did it out of friendship. And to me, that's why I'll come and hang the lights by myself.
The fans, baby. The fans came for the
lights already. I'm going to start sending you lights. That's it. You're the best.
Thank you, Lee.
Miami, we'd be going for tequila right now.
Absolutely. I would have loved that.
I want a real hug soon.
You got it.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Be well.